As most of you probably know, I'm a big Marvel Comics fan and have been a big fan of the movies that they've been releasing since Marvel became a standalone studio. Now, I reviewed 4 earlier in the year, which I absolutely loved. I really do like 4 as a guilty pleasure, and do think, for all intents and purposes, that it's a legitimately good film. However, Captain America, the First Avenger, is a film that I expected big things from. When I saw 4, I wasn't expecting much. This, I had quite high expectations, and that was because of seeing the director Joe Johnston's other films, especially Rocketeer, which is a film that I thought, is essentially Captain America. It was made in the early 90s, and if he applies that sensibility to this film, we should have a success. Now, I am disappointed to report that I did not like Captain America, the First Avenger. I thought this film was greatly disappointing and really amounted to nothing, and I was just so disappointed after going in with such high expectations. I think the problem with this movie is the fact that it is a series of missed opportunities. They do have some interesting ideas that just don't really amount to anything. So the basic plot, and I'm sure that most of you are already familiar with this, is a kind of a weedy little guy called Steve Rogers during World War II, wants to join the army but can't because physically he is inadequate, so to speak. He's then brought in by Stanley Tucci to try out a new serum that will turn him into a super soldier. The Americans will create an army of super soldiers to fight the Germans in World War II. He becomes this super soldier, but the serum is destroyed, so then the army decide they can't use him. He essentially becomes a propaganda tool called Captain America. This is such a missed opportunity, as I said earlier. Now, I thought the best parts of this movie were when Steve Rogers is used as this propaganda tool. I like the fact that the higher-ups, the brass in the American military, said that, look, we can't use you in battle, but we can use you as propaganda. And you have a big musical number in the middle, which it is what I wanted to see more of. I liked this idea of the character being a propaganda tool rather than being an out-and-out superhero. The super part of the character comes from the imagination of the people who hear about him, and I thought that this was really quite interesting. However, that's quickly sidelined in favour of making just a run-of-the-mill action movie that really does nothing different. Now, having said that, the action that's in this movie is quite well shot. The camera holds back. You don't have any of this Paul Greengrass school of editing or shaky cam. You can actually tell what's going on, but when you don't really care about the characters, it really just doesn't work for me. Another thing that I thought that would be great and turned out not to be is the period setting. I honestly thought that Joe Johnston has proved when he made Rocketeer that he can do a period setting and do it well. Rocketeer felt like it was, like it was made in the 1940s as well as set there. But this film, it just didn't feel authentic. I felt like I was watching a modern movie set in that time, and at no point did I buy the setting, the context of the film. I think one thing that probably is responsible for that is that a lot of the scenes set in New York are actually filmed apparently in Manchester in England, a city that I'm very familiar with. It's a city that I visit quite regularly and do love. So when I was watching this and the scenes set in New York, I actually recognised some of the streets from Manchester, and it just took me right out of the film. And I just thought, for what it's worth, they could have made more of an effort to really get that setting established and refined, but they didn't. It felt kind of half-finished. A lot of the effects in this felt finished. The green screen was very obvious. It just didn't feel finished. It felt like a rushed movie, like they've almost rushed it out just to get it ahead of the Avengers, which is apparently coming out next year, and it just doesn't work. Having said all that, I do like Chris Evans as Captain America. This is a guy known for his kind of comedic timing, but he does play it completely straight in this. And I also like how they establish why Steve Rogers is perfect for this super soldier program by having a grenade thrown on the ground, and when all the other soldiers back away from it, he throws himself on the grenade to save them all. I like that they use this to establish that he is a natural-born hero despite his physical inadequacies. But they don't... As soon as he becomes the super soldier, they forget all that. Now, I really wanted to see that when he's given this body, this muscular body, that he wouldn't be used to it, because he's grown up and he's grown into adulthood as a weedy, weak guy who's not used to having a body like this, and how would he know, how to use it? You know what I mean? He wouldn't be used to it, and they just kind of ignore all that for the sake of having a few action scenes, and it like I said at the beginning of this review, it feels like a series of missed opportunities, and it was so disappointing that they didn't build on the world that they established at the beginning. I was so disappointed, and I think this is what happens when you go into a movie with high expectations, is that you're bound to be disappointed. But after seeing Thor earlier on in the year and loving it so much, I really thought, oh, Marvel must be on a hot streak. Like, I can't wait to see the next one. I can't wait to see Captain America, and it just didn't impress me at all. There are a couple of standout things in this. Like I said, I like Chris Evans as Steve Rogers, Captain America. I like Hugo Weaving as the Red Skull. I'll watch Hugo Weaving in anything. He and Stanley Tucci in this movie seem to be having a competition as to who can do the most ham-fisted German accent, which is quite funny. And in that respect, I do like this movie, that it does approach the subject matter of the Nazis in a very similar vein as the Indiana Jones movies back in the 80s, and that was quite cool. And Joe Johnston worked on like Raiders of the Lost Ark, so he's kind of had his foot in that door for many years, but it doesn't feel like a finished product. It feels like, had they spent another few months probably editing it and cleaning up the special effects and maybe reshooting a couple of scenes where the acting just doesn't cut it, it would have been a much better film. The love interest in this movie is grossly underdeveloped. I can't even remember the character's name or the actress's name. I can't even remember what she looks like. That was grossly underdeveloped, and the film is just one big dud in a summer filled with actually quite impressive movies. Captain America is definitely the letdown of the summer so far, and I wouldn't recommend going to see it. Probably catch it on DVD if you're planning on watching the Avengers next year, which I imagine most people watching this video will be. Definitely check out Captain America, but it's just not. It doesn't cut the mustard with Marvel's other films in this canon. Iron Man 2, The Incredible Hulk, Thor, they are all miles better than Captain America.